Hello, it's Friday, and you all know what that means. It's time for our next episode of Toy Box Tutorials. And in case you're wondering, no, this is not my Disneyland toy box. This is a brand new toy box that I built specifically for this episode. And it's just a very small toy box. It's kind of unfinished. It's kind of a compact version of Disneyland, but I'll talk more about that in a few moments. We are at the point in this series where I have now covered a large number of the more commonly used Creativi-toys. We have finished the big Fantasia toy box that I had designed to teach you how to use most of those toys, and we have since built a few other toy boxes that taught you how to use some additional toys. And there are still a handful of Creativi-toys that I have yet to cover, though. I could not come up with a single unified toy box design that elegantly ties all of these different toys together. So from this point on in the series, we're going to be using some small toy boxes that probably won't be featured in more than one or two episodes. What that means is I'm probably not going to show you how to build most of these toy boxes, because they're going to be very small. They are not meant to be something that you can build for yourself and enjoy. They are just meant to provide a scenic background for my videos and a working space for me where I can show you how to use the specific toy that we are covering. That also means that because I'm going to have to build a new toy box almost every week, there may be some weeks where you won't get a new episode of Toy Box Tutorials, depending on how busy my life gets that week. But we'll see how things go. If I'm not able to post a new tutorial, I will try to announce that on my blog and on the community tab on my channel. But for today, I do have a new episode for you, and the topic for our tutorial today is the Calendar Configurator, which sounds like a name Dr. Doofenshmirtz might have come up with. Now, this was a brand new Creativi-toy that was added in Disney Infinity 3.0, and I could not find any tutorials about this online, so I think mine is actually the first. All I did find was this picture on the Disney Infinity Wiki, which I think was meant to illustrate what the toy does, but it doesn't tell you how to use it. But I've been playing with this toy, and it's not actually too difficult to use. Basically, this toy can be used to set up a real-time event in your toy box. It uses the date and time from your system. So what you do, excuse me. So what you do is drop this toy in your toy box, edit its properties to set the date and time for your event, and then connect it to other Creativi-toys to make something happen for your event. And so let's drop one out here, and I've already got a ton of Creativi-toys back here to play with, but don't let that intimidate you. For now, we're just going to focus on this one toy. And so we have dropped the toy here, and since my tutorial seems to be the first one for this toy, and it doesn't seem like anyone has ever really used this toy before, I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways you can use it, which is why I have all those things out there. But again, don't let that intimidate you. This is actually pretty easy to use. And let's start by looking at the properties for this toy. And what you'll notice is that there's a lot of different date and time settings for this. We have the beginning month and the ending month. So this is for the beginning of your event and the end of your event. You have the beginning date within the particular month. So for example, if we set this to January, that one to January, then you can specify a date range here, beginning and ending. We have a starting time and ending time, so you can specify a certain point in the day or a certain range in the day that you want your event to take place. We have a calendar query mode, and this has two settings. There's recurring event and time range. And I played with both of these. It wasn't really obvious to me what the difference was. So you could probably get by without doing anything with this. If you start playing with this and you figure out what the difference is, let me know. I would sure like to know. And then you have some settings for each of the different days of the week. So if you want your event to only happen on Sunday, for example, you would turn off all of these other dates, and then your date would only happen on Sunday. All right, so all of these properties combined provide different ways for you to specify the date and time for your event. And again, it can be a particular month, a particular day of the month, maybe every Sunday, maybe every time, every day at 1 o'clock or something, whatever you want to do. All right, so one Calendar Configurator object specifies one event. So you need one of these Creativi-toys to set up one event. If you want multiple events, you're going to have to drop multiple Calendar Configurators, which we're going to do in an example a little bit later. Also, it is not enough to just drop this toy in your toy box and set its properties. This toy will not do anything until you invoke it. And it has one behavior, and so let's go ahead and hook this button up to invoke that. So we'll do a new logic connection on the button. When pressed, we come over to our Calendar Configurator, and you can see there is one behavior here. It's called query. This tells this tells the toy to check the date and time on your system and compare it with the properties that you set. So we'll tell it to query. And for this little example, let's set this up to be as a birthday event. So under the properties, the day that I'm recording this is actually last Friday for you. This is September 8th for me. And so I'm going to set this to be September. I'll set it the beginning month and the ending month the same. And the date will be the 8th. And the ending date will be the 8th. So this is only going to go off on September 8th. Starting time doesn't matter. We'll leave that wide open. And that day can fall on any day, so we'll leave all of those turned on. Okay, so now we have a Calendar Configurator set to September 8th. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, this is my birthday, and it's not. So the button, when you press it, will tell this to query the system time. And depending on the result, this is going to fire or broadcast one of two trigger signals. So if we look under New Logic Connections, there's two trigger signals here. The first one is queried current time is in specified range. What this means is it's time for your event. So the date and time that you specified in the properties for this, the system time falls in that range. That's what this signal means, and this will be broadcast when that happens. If the current time doesn't fall within the range set inside your calendar properties, it will broadcast this signal, which says the queried current time is not in that range. All right, but let's say for the sake of argument that it is. This is what we want, is when it is set in this range, we're going to do a few things for our birthday celebration. So when the queried current time is in that range, we'll come over to our text creator, and let's go under the victory category and have it say congratulations. And we'll set the properties on this. So the text duration's 4, and the text style is banner. And we can hook this up to multiple things. We can do another new logic connection when the queried current time is in the range. We can come over to our sound effect generator, and I would love to have this play a little happy birthday theme, but we don't have that music. So we'll just have it do royal fanfare. And we could also have this set up to connect to a couple of party cannons out here. So we actually come into the toy box right here. And if we were to hook this calendar up with a level starter, then as soon as the level starts, if it's your birthday, those cannons will go off, the text will show up, and the music will play. But let's go ahead and finish hooking that up. We'll hook up to the other party cannon. Grand finale. And just so we can see that, let's go ahead and move our button out here. Alright, so the button is hooked up to the calendar, and the calendar is hooked up to all of these other toys. Alright, and let's push the button and see what happens. It should go off since today is September 8th as I'm recording this. And there we go. And you don't hear the music because I forgot to set the property. We need to turn off 3D sound at speaker or locator. And if we come back over here and do this again, now we should hear that. And there we go. So now we have set up an event for our birthday. And that's one example of what you could potentially do with this. Again, I probably would not connect this to a button. I would connect a level starter rather to the calendar so that when you enter the toy box it'll find out if it's your birthday or not. Just for fun, let's change the date to be the previous day. And so now if we push the button, the current date on the system does not fall in that range, so nothing should happen. And nothing does happen. So that gives you a very simple illustration of how to use this particular toy. Let's look at something a little bit more interesting. Let's start with another simple example. So let's use the Calendar Configurator to set up another real-time event where we're going to have the sky in our toy box match what's going on in the real world. So if it's nighttime in the real world, we want to use a nighttime sky. If it's daytime in the real world, we'll use a real world sky. And so what we will do for this calendar is this is going to be governed by time. So we're going to do this for every month of the year. We're going to do this for every date, every day. The only thing we're going to change here is the starting time and the ending time. And so if we want to do this for daytime, for example, you'll notice this goes from 0 to 2400 or 24 hours. So it's a 24-hour setting here. So let's set this to 6. That would be 6 a.m. And let's set the ending time to 8 p.m., which would be 20 actually. That would be 8 p.m. So 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. All right. And what we will do is connect this calendar to our sky changer. So we'll do a new logic connection. When the queried time is in that range, and that's the daytime range, we'll come over to our sky, Disney Infinity. We'll use the castle, Disney Castle Sky. And we'll do a new logic connection. When the queried time is not in that range, then it means it's nighttime. So we'll come over to our sky changer, go under Disney Infinity, and we will use the Disney Castle Twilight Sky. All right. And then let's go ahead and connect a repeater up to this. So we're going to set the properties on this. So every 60 seconds, this will go off. So every minute, it'll just check the system time. So we'll do a new logic connection on repeat. We'll come over and query the system time to see if we have changed, if it's gotten later or whatever. And we'll use our two buttons here to turn on the repeater and turn it off. So the first button will turn on the repeater. The second button will turn it off. All right. So right now it's daytime, so nothing should happen when we push this button. The repeater goes off, and nothing happens because it is daytime. But just to show you what would happen, let's come back over to our properties, and let's see, it is currently 2:30 in the afternoon for me. So let's set the ending time to be 1400. This will be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are already past that. So now when we start this up, our sky should change. And it does, because we are now in the nighttime. And this repeater is constantly running and constantly checking the time. And so once the time comes around to 6 a.m., then our sky should change back. And so now we have a toy box with a daytime and a nighttime sky that matches the sky that's in the world where we are. And that is pretty cool. But let's go ahead and put our time back, and I want to set the daytime sky back. So we'll put this back to 20. So this is one way you can set up a daytime-night cycle, day-night cycle in your toy box that, in this case, matches the real world. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's do a little bit more complicated example this time. Let's do one that's like that screenshot that I showed you earlier, where it seemed to indicate that you can change your toy box based on season. All right, and so I have built a toy box here using some of the plant clusters out of the plants drawer. So if you look at, for example, the plants, these are going to be the first 9 pieces in the plants drawer. All right, that's what these are. And these are all customizable, and you'll remember from a few episodes ago when we looked at the theme changer, you can change the theme on these as well as the terrain. And so I've set up a bunch of these around the toy box that can change when the theme changer changes them. All right. And I've set up 4 calendar configurators here that we're going to do for each season. So we'll set the first one up for winter. And for winter, let's change the beginning month to be December. Let's go December to February. So the ending month will be February. This will be for my winter season. Starting and ending date, and all the rest of these are going to stay the same. For spring, we'll set this up to be March to May. So the ending month will be May. For summer, oops, not that, properties, we'll set this up to be June to August. And this is actually pretty cool, I have to say. I've already built this once and played around with it, and it's pretty neat. For the last one, we'll set fall to be September through November. So the ending month will be November. All right, and then I've dropped a theme changer back here that we're going to use to change the terrain and the plant clusters. And so on the one for winter, we're going to do a new logic connection. When the queried time is in that range for winter, we'll come over to our theme changer. We'll go into the world theme, terrain, and we'll go to Frozen Flourish. And I have that power disk on my terrain, or on my Disney Infinity base. And I'd also like to change the plants, so we'll come back to the calendar configurator, new logic connection when the queried time is in range. And once again, I'd like to come over and make another connection to this, but I can't. And so I've dropped down 4 logic gates here that we can use as pass-throughs. So we'll input into this first gate. On that gate, new logic connection on output. We'll come over to the theme transformer, go under world theme, population clusters. We will go down to frozen flourish. All right, for spring, new logic connection when the time is in that range. We're going to set the terrain to be Rapunzel's Kingdom. And we'll do the same thing for the plant clusters here. Once again, we'll input into this gate. New logic connection on output. Come over and change the population clusters to Rapunzel's Kingdom. For summer, we'll basically use what I've already got in the toy box. And that is the Metroville Cityscape. That's what everything is currently set to. This is how I built my toy box. And I know it's probably a little bit tedious to watch me set all of these, but I don't want to skip anything or rush through this, because this tutorial is for beginners primarily. Alright, so this is fall, and for fall, this one's going to be a little bit different. Whoops, well, we're going to do that anyway. But new logic connection. The query will come over and change the terrain. And for the terrain on the fall, we're going to set this to Mickey's Fantastic Farmstead. I kind of liked the look of that best for fall. We don't really have a good fall setting, but I like that. And then on output from this gate, we'll change the plant clusters. And for that, we're going to use the park pieces. And those are actually toy box terrain. Okay, so all of these calendars are now hooked up to the theme changer to change things. Now, we'll use a level starter for this one instead of a button, because I want to show you how you do this, but we'll hook up a level starter, and you can hook this up directly to each of these 4 things, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run it through this logic gate, and you'll see why in a couple minutes. And then on this logic gate, we'll do an output, and we'll connect that up to each of the 4 calendars. And I'm going to query all 4 of them. The date and time on the system is only going to fall within the range of one of these 4 calendars. Okay. And then, because we're already in the level in our toy box, we'll use this button to invoke our level starter. Alright, so we push the button, that'll invoke the level starter and kind of simulate loading up the toy box. The level starter will invoke the logic gate, which will query all 4 of these calendars. And the one whose season we're in will then go to the theme transformer and change it. And since we are in September, that should invoke this for fall. So I've got it set to summer right now. That's how I built the toy box. But when we push the button, since the date time is in the fall range, that should change the toy box. And it does. And I've got a little button over here where we can just kind of look at the toy box. I've got that hooked up to a camera. So you can see we now have fall in our toy box. The exact same toy box, same layout, same streets and buildings, just now it's fall. And if you want to see what that looks like, I'll cycle through all of these. So here's what winter would look like, and spring, and summer, and fall. And so there you go. So now we have the seasons, and because it's hooked up to the level starter, every time we load up this toy box, it will check the system calendar against my calendar events, and it'll change my toy box based on the season. That is really cool, I must say. Now, one more little thing before we wrap this up for today. Let's say we want to do something special, for example, for Halloween. And we want to do that outside of what we're doing for these. So we want to do this most of the time, but for Halloween we'd like to do something even a little bit more special. And so what we'll do is let's go ahead and disconnect our level starter from our logic gate here. So I will delete this link. You can see it deleted the line to the thing there. We're going to set up an event over here for Halloween. So under the properties for this calendar configurator, you'd go under beginning month, you'd set this to October, you'd set the ending month to be the same month, October. The beginning date will be the 31st. Ending date would be the 31st, so that stays the same, and the whole day we'll leave it. Okay, so all the rest of those are fine. Excuse me. All right, so what we will do is, since this is a special day, we want this to override what we would normally do here. So let's hook the level starter up to that. So a new logic connection on Catalyze. We're going to come over to this event and do a query. And that's going to see if the date that's on the system matches our date for Halloween. If it is, then we do a new logic connection. If the queried current time is in that range, we'll come over to our theme transformer, and we're going to change the terrain to use Jack's Scary Decorations. And we'll also change the plant clusters. So if the current time is in that range, if it is indeed Halloween, we'll input into this logic gate. Oops, and an output from this gate, we'll come over to our theme transformer and change the plant clusters to be Jack's Scary Decorations as well. Okay. Now on this calendar configurator for Halloween, new logic connection, if the queried time is not in the specified range and it's not Halloween, then we'll just input into this gate and do what we normally do for the seasons. All right. So now when we come over and we invoke our level starter, nothing should actually happen because this is September 8th as I'm recording this. So it changes it to fall, which is what I would expect. But it does not change it to Halloween. Now if you want, we can simulate Halloween just by changing the date on here. So if you come under the properties, let's set the month to September. And we'll set the date to the 8th. So we'll pretend today is Halloween. And if you wanted, you could do this for the entire month of October. Just have it do this every day in October. But I've set it to September 8th. Let's see what happens. And you'll see now it's set to Halloween. If we look at our camera, all the trees have changed and now we have those stick trees. And if you wanted, you could even have the calendar configurator invoke the sky changer to set the sky as well. But I'm not going to put the sky down for the Halloween Town theme. So as you can see, you can use the calendar configurator to set up lots of different real-time events in your toy box. So if you want to do something special in your toy box for the Christmas season, or for a specific day like New Year's Eve or Valentine's Day or Star Wars Day, you can do that. If you want something to happen every day at a specific time, or if you want to have something that only happens on Sunday evening, you can do that too. You could hook up the Calendar Configurator to a replayer to put down some specific decorations that you want. You could hook it up to a boombox to play some specific music. You could do a parade like the one that I did in the final episode of my Disneyland series. Or you could do something else. The possibilities are endless. You're only limited by your imagination. Well, that's all for me today. Before you go, please hit the like button if you appreciated my video today, and let me know what you think of the Calendar Configurator and my tutorial for it. I always love hearing from my viewers. Also, if there is a specific Creativi-toy that I have not covered yet, and you need a tutorial for it, and you can't wait until I get around to it in a few months, let me know that in the comments too, and I'll try to prioritize the Creativi-toys that you need. As always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, and you like Disney Infinity and my tutorials and toy box designs, just click my photo in the lower right corner of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.